Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, we come to you today. Lord, just in anticipation of another wonderful day on your planet, Lord, help and guide everyone here today so that the business in the county can be done in a way that brings you pleasure and honor and glory. Lord, guide our hearts, our thoughts, our mind. Okay, well, welcome, everybody. Beautiful day. The trees are pretty outside. You can see through the windows, the birds are singing, and we've got business in front of us. So the first thing will be any county personnel or public comment. It doesn't look like there is, but we want to give opportunity. If someone's listening and then has something they want to say, just come on down here and we'll make time for you. So the first item on our agenda is the minutes from last week's meeting. Okay. Any additions or corrections to the minutes?
I move we approve the 4/14 of 2025 minutes.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second? Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion carried. Nice job. Next is payroll. Any questions or comments on this? No? Is there a motion to approve?
So
Is there a second? Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Going through it. We'll handle the funding report to him soon. Let's move on down. We're gonna skip number 3. If no one's here, we'll ask him some questions if we need to. We'll move down to this resolution 2025-11, which has to do with the Comprehensive Planning Commission and appointing new members. So. Let me get in there. There we are. Okay, did everyone have a chance to look this over? It deals with replacing. There's 7 members, started with staggered 3-year terms. So that means when it was appointed last year, that 2 were on for 1, and so on and so forth. Well, the 2 members that took 1-year terms were from my district. And so we found people willing to replace them. Rex Lockwood's going off and Bill Seckler's going off. And we thank them for their time and their service and everything they did. I know they put a lot of effort into it. And I found and asked and they agreed to serve would be Annette Hoskins and Wesley Simmons. And they agreed to serve for 3-year terms. Any questions on that?
I don't know Wesley Simmons.
Wes and Julie, they live just east of Everest. He's a farmer. He's been to several of the meetings. Sorry. What do you want to know about him? I guess I don't.
Just that he understands that we pretty much put this in to kind of control the federal government overreach.
Yeah. So I'm not sure exactly how to comment on that. Wesley.
Not something we should comment on.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, I've known him my entire life. When I asked him and then he agreed, and I think he'd be excellent at it. He's a very thoughtful person, pretty humble, doesn't say a lot, like public speaking, but he's a thinker and he's the kind of guy that'll give his opinion. But he might not want to stand in front of the microphone and do it, you know what I mean? So, good, solid people. So, I guess those are the names, and, looks like, is there any questions or comments
No, I know.
okay. Well, I would make a motion then to approve this resolution 2025-11, which is the appointing the new members of the planning commission. In the form of a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay. Motion carried. Thanks for that.
That's the resolution. We have to sign.
Okay. Okay, moving on through, it's like I'm gonna skip this SW hauling agreement. We're gone. And then we'll go to the occupational licenses. I don't know if we did this, but we all moved from this civic clerk program to Dropbox. It looks like I'm a little lost here. It's because I am, but we're getting through it. And I want to thank you, Nikki, for doing that. And we're going to make this work. This was a pretty significant savings to the county. And we didn't ask her to do this. She came up with it on her own. So I want to make mention of that and say thank you. And it seems to work. It's just a lot of information. And if I make it just a little bit too big, then it goes away. Okay, so we have 2 occupational licenses here.
Double tap our chat.
Okay.
Screen.
Does it? Okay.
Well,
all
at least mine did.
right. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm just gonna do that. As for the Mission Lake Country Club and for the country cabin. So is there any questions or comments on that?
Yeah, I got a question.
Okay,
So when I read that law that's stated there, 41, 26, 22, it talks about a biennial license amount from $200 to $500 a year. So why do we do it every year instead of every 2 years? Okay, so the county chose this to do it every year.
oh, okay, so you looked at the state statute, that's what you said, okay.
So the maximum we can charge is $250. Cause it said 200 to 500 for a 2-year period for what I was reading, so. That wouldn't, I just thought that saved doing it every year. Do it for 2-year periods.
But the county has a resolution that says we do it every year. Okay, okay.
No more questions.
Okay. All right. Any more discussion? Then do we approve them separately or approve them together? Or a motion? They separate? Okay. Well, is there a motion to approve occupational license at number 25-002?
So
Which is, it's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, motion carried. And we'll move on to occupational license number 25-003, which is the country cabin. Is there a motion to approve? I'll move to approve. Is there a second?
Second that.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Here we go. We did it. Okay, it's all right. Okay, well, that's done. We're moving through the last item on our agenda. And I got some. This is a Jake break discussion. Had you fellas had a chance to see your email? You say anything about it? Okay, well, this is just, it's very casual, but I was pulled aside at a group, a meeting, asking about semi Jake breaks coming into Horton specifically. And with noise and just general displeasure at the trucks coming in, rattling pipes, coming in east of town, going into Horton, but also coming from the north. heading in and, you know, is there anything the county can do about it? I don't know. So I asked and Mr. Hill, I sent him an email. He said evidently this was discussed 5 years ago, ish, give or take. And he drew up a resolution, but it didn't go ahead. And so I just thought maybe we'd tap into your brains and see what you were on, you know, what happened.
I remember like the state had control over it because it was outside the, they said that it was putting the sign up on the right of way. They wouldn't allow.
Yeah, we can do the resolution, that had to do with the sign, so, I think what happened is, the ones that was mentioned for that area, you had other people come in wanting it in their area, and, there were several requests all over, and the question was what would it cost those signs be versus, and of that, I won't speak for the commission, but I think that's where it kind of died. It's been a while.
Cost of the sign.
Yeah, you'd have to get a notice of change, for a resolution.
Mhm.
I think specifically in 73, there is the issue of KDOT not allowing sign, there are specific issues with signs, so then I think there was discussion about putting them on county roads, and then where would those be, and how many, and so it really bogged down into, there were a lot of requests, I think, that were being mentioned to various commissioners. And, how they came up with those, I recall.
Can't remember what it is. I just know we were specifically talking about one area.
Yeah, 73 might be an issue because signage is state highway. So
All right. So then,
now Horton does have if I recall, I have to double check. I think they have.
right at city limits, yeah, right at city limits, which is at the bottom of the hill. Okay, so then if I wanted more information on this, as far as like KDOT, I just have to talk to the office there, or would we go to the state?
That's where I talked to. Yeah, Horton's going to be the ones that
Off the hook? Yeah. Okay.
I think if they're on board. You want to start understanding. You're an aim and then like do that stuff.
Ready retired.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know, you know, coming into Atchison, they have a Jay Creek sign right at the city limits, but there's nothing on the hill going in, so. Well, I'll just have to, okay, appreciate that. Is there any?
We discussed it. South Iowa too, and we never did anything on it.
Yeah, but that was, there was Hiawatha, and then I thought there was a county one, there were a couple of one of them as well, so.
What I heard was what, east of Horton, north of Horton, and then south of Hiawatha and north of Iowa. Coming in.
Yeah, and I think it wasn't the original, I think it was somebody that resided in South Hiawatha. Yeah, I think that was the original person that requested it.
Okay, so the hiccup there is Kansas Department of Transportation didn't want us to put signs up on their highway. Is that?
I wasn't involved in that, I think it was originally.
That's what they, you know, we had to have their approval. Yeah.
Okay.
They said no.
I said no, don't that. All right, well, I'll ask and we'll just see what happens. Okay. Simple. And when I asked about that, I had sent Kevin an email and we went through the clerk and the clerk distributed, it had all that, like the sample resolution and stuff. So if you haven't seen it, it's in there somewhere, in your
Okay.
email somewhere that'll follow it, so. Okay. Oh, really? No, I didn't. Okay, I thought I forwarded all that to you. Let me try again. I'm sorry, I missed that. Mhm. Okay, we'll do that at a later date because I'm having a little trouble here. Before the meetings. I'll get that sent out. All right. We've got a little time for. Unless you're ready, we can have you come out if you'd like to, yeah. Good morning.
Good.
How are you?
Good.
Glad you're here. You got a lot to us.
Yep. What do you want to start with?
You're the ball.
All right, let's get this burn resolution out of the way. Start with that first. I typed up what I believe was discussed at the last one and forwarded that to you for your approval. I got unhappy fire chiefs, calls from them. And I'm sure that you guys got opinions from them too. I encouraged them to do that. So,
Actually didn't.
oh,
I didn't get anything. So pretty
good for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did, and I just, we just leave it like it is now. Until our chiefs have more time to discuss it among themselves. And I guess I'm. So the fine there, that would go to the state, not to the county, or not to the fire districts, right? If they fail to report, or the 200, between 200 and $500 fine or something. If they didn't,
No,
if they didn't-
if the fire, the way it's written up is if the fire chiefs want reimbursement for fire equipment that was used during the fire, they need to notify the sheriff's office what was used and how much it's going to cost. Because the sheriff has no way of knowing that.
Right.
That puts the responsibility on the fire chief to turn that bill in. And then the sheriff's office will turn that into the county attorney.
But where does the fine go? There's a something for the use of the equipment, but there's also a fine in there.
Right, and that, I believe it's in the statute, said that goes back to the fire department.
That there is. I mean, I can see maybe if they're called out there, and they have a cost, but I don't know that. Otherwise, it gets a fine.
Right.
That's,
Kevin, do you remember reading that statute?
I,
Okay, I think it was in the statute that says it goes back to the fire department. It was in writing somewhere, it went back to them.
Okay, when I read that. The what Mr. Pollock's talking about is this fine is if someone lights a fire. And even if it doesn't get out of control, there would still be a violation of this resolution because the sheriff's office wasn't notified. This new resolution, am I
Okay.
correct?
that's what.
To me, my intent is that the only time that fine took effect was if there's fire equipment that showed up on the scene. And then the fire chief is the one that turned in the bill for the equipment being used.
Okay. So if I back up here and kind of go through the history of this. We're looking at making some changes we just made. And I guess. I don't know, I feel like almost I need to apologize because I took some phone calls when guys were trying to get burning done. Didn't make it happen because of the system we had. And so we worked on and there was a resolution that was sort of ready for just this situation. So I thought, well, that looks better. Let's go that way. And so we went that way. And kind of, I mean, just let's fix it fast. And we fixed it fast and we solved one problem and created another. So, because we got some fire chiefs that were getting a lot of phone calls and that's, that's a real problem. So we rushed into that and I thought, we had the best of intentions. But, the results maybe weren't quite what we were after. So then we had 2 weeks ago, we had some fire chiefs in here, stating just that. I said, what if we do something different? And as I read this is a notification for burn. This isn't asking for permission. This is saying, I want to burn. And so I'm going to burn and they're just letting you know I'm going to burn. And so my interpretation or my hope is, to ease the burden on fire chiefs. If we don't structure this to where people need to make that phone call, then we haven't helped them at all, because they'll won't citizens report seeing smoke here, and then they'll turn the fire in, and here comes the crews. If we don't have a procedure in there that says, hey, I'm burning at 150th and Sunflower, which is where I live. You know, if we don't have that notified and we send emergency crews to that fire, have we helped the situation at all? Yeah, the person that wants to burn is burning without, can burn when the conditions are right. He's not asking for a blessing. He's just, or he or she is just saying, I'm gonna burn. But if we don't notify the sheriff's department and dispatch so that the fire chiefs don't come running because somebody reported smoke, then we still made their life, we haven't helped them. Does that make sense? And that, I don't know that this, I was hoping this would say you need to report. And if you don't report, this is the.
Okay.
Does that,
And that could be added in.
but maybe that's not the intention of what, maybe you don't like that, or maybe you don't like that. I didn't want to, I feel like I made a mistake when we went quickly the last time. And for reasons I stated, I just don't want to do it again. I want to get this and get it right and get it done. So everybody has a clear understanding and there's no unintended, I guess, negative consequences.
Cause my input was that there was only a couple of our districts that were complaining. And then we changed it and we didn't take time to visit with all the parties. Get more input.
But maybe he did.
We, I believe there was 4 departments represented here a couple weeks ago. So that's 4 I've heard from. But, at the fire chief meeting, I would have to pull up the sign up sheet to see exactly how many fire departments are there. Most of them were. And, Hal Hatton, he attended virtually, the fire chief there. But we were limited to 45 minutes on that Zoom meeting, and then it cut him off, which he didn't get to be part of that. And he is one of them that's opposed to this new one. And so he didn't get to hear that discussion, even though he was part of that meeting.
So the window to burn, especially for CRP and federal government stuff, is closed. So has the burden's sort of been eliminated naturally anyway. Would there be any, would it be a good idea just to let this simmer for a little bit and let people, do you think anything would come of it if we had more discussion or gave it more time, or do you think this is?
The fire chiefs have different views on that. I don't know if they will come together with one plan or not.
This is the new resolution, just the resolution we just adopted. What one we're gonna stay with that one, or we're going back to our original one until we figure something out, because nobody's happy with it. The new one that was adopted, either the fire chief don't want phone calls, do we go back to the original one, what we had in place? So this can be worked out, because I'm just saying that they're not totally happy with the new one that's in there, and they don't like this one. Do we need to go back with one that works for a few years?
And the public is not happy with the original one.
Right now, that's probably just a point now.
But it's going to come up again.
Yeah.
Yeah, every year it does.
So I think we could put it off. Let it soak in a little while and. I don't like the idea that you get a fine, a $200 fine, just because you failed to notify them and didn't have any issues after it. That's kind of taking your. Some people can burn, some people can't.
So I take a different tack on that one, because I like the idea, not of the $200 fine. I don't like that, but I like the idea of people calling in and notifying. That's what I want. That's what I want people to do. Say, hey, sheriff's, office, we're gonna burn here, conditions are right. And I don't want Washington Township getting a phone call. That's where I'm at. I don't want them getting a phone call saying, when somebody's burning, there's a fire there, you need to send the crew. I still want that connection to be made, so the dispatch can tell the chiefs that there's a plan to burn there, you know. That's my hope.
Then we're never gonna solve this. When you look at a fire, well, that's just east of Hiawatha, 2 miles, you call them out, well, it's actually 10 miles.
No, it's-
And then you got people that are always, they see smoke and the first thing they do is just call, because they think there's a fire and unfortunately, until you dig into finding the burn permit, maybe it was issued the day before and it rekindled. You've got to start sending people until you find the proper paperwork to cancel them, because if you wait the 3 to 5 minutes, maybe to find the permit,
Sure.
it could be somebody's life. So what do you, I mean, we're caught between a rock and a hard spot. It's gonna happen, no matter what resolution we have and how it's stated.
And a lot of times law enforcement's the first one sent out to confirm it's there.
Mhm.
So can you different, I mean, I'm just thinking, I don't know, can you differentiate between a structure fire and a grass fire? I mean, cause years ago, I was trying to burn off a little place in the middle of a section. Pretty soon here comes the fire department, cause somebody saw it, and cell phones are part of the trouble. Because everybody can report
Sure.
anything they see from anywhere. And not necessarily have to go investigate it themselves. I mean, why didn't whoever reported that come and check it out themselves before they just, well, they, it was not by house, it was not, you know, was not. So that's kind of my deal is, if something happens like that, you're gonna charge a person $200 just because they. That's kind of taking their liberties away.
One thing what you'll find, the fire chiefs are gonna be receptive to. They don't have to put their men into service, actually fight the fire. I don't think you're gonna see if they get canceled. Once somebody's there, I don't think you're gonna see that $200 fine come in every time you come around, but if somebody set one on, they're there for 4 or 5 hours, putting the fire out of control.
But how do you determine when you put the fine on it? You determine that.
It says the fire department can't send the landowner a bill no matter what.
Yeah, that makes me.
And so what, if you need to start doing this, are people gonna, I mean, people pretty much. Each fire department, a lot of them even have their own fundraisers. If you start doing something like this, or everyone's that going into their fundraising. That's just a question. I don't know.
I had thought the landowners in the county were sort of used to the idea of before I strike a match, I'm gonna call dispatch.
I think we need to keep that.
I think so too. I thought we were, I know I've been conditioned to do just that. Because but I also know, I was picked on my dad. That's my dad is not. And so he just, he does it differently, different generation. He just, is somebody needs to burn, he burns it. But I learned that through the fire department, because when you get in a truck and drive over there for nothing, right? You just.
We don't want that. I mean,
Yeah, you don't want that, so. Okay, so a lot of words here. I like what you've done here. Is there any we have a resolution on the books, the active burn window sort of behind us. Would there be any harm in I guess essentially tabling this or just giving a little time for more input? And I'm looking to you, I'm not trying to pin it on you, but
From my point of view, the fire chiefs are not happy at all with this one. And if
The
we
current
leave
one.
it, right,
okay,
that was passed a couple weeks ago.
okay,
And if we leave that one in effect, then they're going to be getting phone calls.
still,
Right, because that's what the resolution says.
okay, okay.
That is correct.
I was hoping that with the burn, most of the burn season behind us, that we would be taken care of.
But they can just say no, and that's really,
Yes, they can.
that's,
They were tired of getting phone calls.
so how many phone calls did they actually get? My question.
The one fire chief that was here said he had 2 that morning. He was here and the day before he got a few calls. they're like us, we don't like to be bothered, you know, when we're off, but that's part of the responsibility is having that position.
Right. As long as they can say no. I think it's, I mean, I didn't think any problem to say no.
Mhm.
That's what it is. I think it's leave hope. They go back to the original one. But that restricted people from burning when they didn't give them any options. And this other, it's up to the, that's up to the fire chief, but he's got the option to say no, so if he doesn't want to deal with it.
But they still deal with, it, because that chief has to take the phone call and say, you know, I think it's the volume of calls that those. I mean, you're right. You're right. They have the option to say no, but the intent of this is to take that burden, those phone calls off of their. Right.
Yes,
I mean, they don't, if I understand it, the chief doesn't want to say, he doesn't want to take the phone call, so.
and the one we had originally in effect, it was cut and dry. It's either it meets these conditions or it doesn't. You know, even though everybody feels like it's good to burn, the scientific method says it's not. There's no leeway. It didn't give the sheriff the option to say, oh, go ahead.
And this new proposed resolution, you know, it says if we're county ban, state ban, red flag warning, you know, no burning. But there's nothing in there about, you know, wind speed or humidity or temperature or anything like that. So it's just, this is just an intent. This is just, I'm gonna burn. I just want to let you know about it. And if something goes wrong, you know, there are some penalties. But that's up to each fire department to charge. That's their discretion, essentially. And if they do, then it comes to us and we forward it on. Is that right?
It goes to the sheriff
Goes to the sheriff,
and then the sheriff takes it to the county attorney.
and the sheriff takes it to the attorney. Yeah, that's where I'm making.
And the intent is the fire chief, they're the ones that if it gets out of control, they're the ones that are affected.
Mhm.
So the idea is they get to say, no, I don't think it's safe to be burning today. And get to have a say in it before they did.
This gives the county some control. In the state, you know, because people still have to follow, if there's a countywide burn ban, state red flag, I already said that, then there's no burn. But otherwise, it gives individual landowners or people who want to burn a lot of discretion. And, okay, so if we go through the what ifs, I mean, what if we get a lot of fires when conditions aren't great? I mean, it's sort of,
That's what we had before we put the first resolution. We got fire department for running no wind. That's why we went back to weather service.
so
It cut down on the number of runs in the fire department. There were fires, they were running nonstop all day long. People were burning every time. They had a chance. I mean, the winds were blowing and it shouldn't be, they were burning. That's what prompted the original resolution that we had.
So if you take that and just kind of glimpse into the future, I mean, we could theoretically, you know, run them pretty ragged again with a situation like this. Unless we as commissioners or this body decided, you know, we're not, you know, I mean, we would have that authority, I guess, according to this.
Yes.
Their way, and then we went back to the original one, and okay, we said a 2 week or, you know, month window in there where we're able to open things up a little bit for the farmers to get their stuff done with CRP, but I don't know, they're still opening up a nightmare maybe. But I understand why they have to get it right.
Mhm.
All we got now is, they still gotta, they gotta call, notify the fire department, right? But if the wind conditions are right. They can go ahead and burn without his permission. If it's not in the high fire danger and all the high wind speeds and that stuff.
Okay, are you talking about the one that's in effect as of today? Or this new proposed one, or
No, the ones in effect today.
the one that's in effect today? Is, they have to follow the, guidelines that are spelled out, the wind speed and all that, and if it's anything but in the extreme high. Or they can burn in the very high, what's the other one, extreme high and, anyway, the top two fire dangers, they cannot burn in those, okay? But the very high, they can burn in now,
Not very high.
right, with the fire chief's permission.
But maybe we just went to the high.
That it added, well, we were able to on the high before, I believe. Very high is the one that got added.
There's a.
There's an extreme.
Severe. There's a condition where. It's listed as just say high, but it says on there that you could burn, during certain times of the day.
Right.
And I believe when that condition hits, then the county, under the old resolution, would still said no, but currently the fire chief, if that person gives their blessing, then the burn can happen.
But that's just in the high,
In the, yeah,
but not, I didn't think it was very high.
well,
I'm probably wrong.
yeah, I,
Very high in extreme as well.
there you go, you went to,
Okay.
So it's high in the fire.
okay. So I guess our reluctance here, or my reluctance, I'll just speak for me, is if I jump. What if, the resolution, we thought we were making things better. We sort of did, but we sort of did. So if I jump on this, am I gonna do the same thing? Am I gonna alleviate some problems but create new?
There is no way we're gonna make everybody happy.
Well, I don't want to make everyone happy as much as I want to do the best job we can. I want to give people, landowners, the freedom to burn when times are right. And not be at the mercy of a National Weather Service, from Silver Spring, Maryland, I think is where they're from. But then I also don't want to give people the freedom to light fires and then run our fire departments just everywhere, chasing these things down. My hope is that community members that want to burn are obligated to notify the sheriff's department. I think that's important, at least it is to me. Make that phone call. We're burning here. Now, whether someone reports it or not, we can't do anything about that. But I think that step is critically important. And then I also think there needs to be some teeth in it. I believe if you light a fire and you don't report it, and it's a grass fire or whatever you're gonna do, to have this thing make any sense, have it worth our time, there needs to be some sort of. I said it, there needs to be some sort of penalty. I just think there should be. I'm not for it. I don't want to take money from folks, but also. We gotta balance people being responsible for their own fire and then being courteous and respectful of other people that are sent out to put it out. In case we need this. That's my hope.
Okay, so what you're saying is there should be a fine by the sheriff's office for not reporting your burn. And that's gonna be a burn that is not contained, which in all this, it says you can burn garden plots without notifying of the burn or getting burned.
And field waste and like that.
Yeah. So, are we gonna stick with that, or is it? Other ones I'm familiar with, it's a contained burn, which means it needs to be inside of a rock formation or a trash barrel with a lid on it. The garden plots, what's the definition of a garden plot?
Just to clarify, the sheriff would not issue a fine. It would be, you could.
Issue the
take
citation.
issue that.
Okay.
Or the court will always have discretion.
The resolution we have it now says that they will meet that we're in the high category, they can run if they call the fire chief. Correct.
And the fire chief approved.
All right, so can we modify that instead of calling the fire chief, they call the sheriff's department? I'm really, hear me through on it, they call the sheriff's department. If they make one call to that fire chief, and that fire chief says no burning. That answers their question for their whole district the rest of the time, and the sheriff's department would tell them no. They would only get one call that day from the sheriff's department. I just. You know, that would keep them to have, you know, it's not the public that's gonna be calling, the sheriff's department would call, when they get the first call in. Hey, they wanna go ahead and burn, it meets these requirements, are you okay with it? And if that fire chief says no, then everybody in the district would call in that point on, and that day will be told no. I'm just to modify what we have in place now where the fire chiefs are not getting all the phone calls. You know, they make a decision once, if it's first thing in the morning that day, and they say, no, we don't wanna burn. Then it's set for the day.
Yeah,
I'm just throwing something out.
I'm gonna add to that a suggestion, is what if at 7 o'clock in the morning, they look and see what the National Weather Service says. If it's in the high, they send out the page to all the fire chiefs and say, hey, it's in the high today, are you going to allow burning? And then they reply back if they're going to allow it. And then that is good for the whole day. That way, all the fire chiefs are responding in the first thing in the day, and the dispatcher will know. You know, Washington's going to allow it, Morrill's not going to allow it.
For discussion purposes, I mean, your one is in effect, so what you do today is not going to change that because they're effective on the public, so. I mean, what I suggest to avoid this happening again, when we publish and then have, you know, a week or two later. Looking at revising it is, I mean, discuss it as you're doing now, Don, take the notes. Discuss it with the fire chiefs, I agree, you're not gonna make everybody happy, but I agree with Mr. Heinen, what you're here to do and what you think is the best interest of everything. And so, you guys can discuss that, come up with what you all think you can be happy with. Happy may not be the right word, but satisfied with all those into effect, and then if we change it, then we still need to publish, and then we'll be effective on that publication. That's sentencing on felony, it's 9 o'clock. So.
Okay.
It's actually, I think that was all I got. I think the other hauling contract, I think they can't look at and they were fine with those conditions.
Thank you.
Okay.
I guess when you just said. So I think people are fine with certain people burning, but not other people burning, and some people are maybe more. Depends on where you're burning and what equipment you have available on your own to.
You mean certain fire chiefs are okay
Sure.
with people burning, or?
Well, certain people, there might be okay with certain individuals burning and not other than burning.
The fire chief is okay with certain people burning.
Right.
Right.
So if you just made it for all for one day. Then that. I don't know, that,
I know what you're, I think I know what you're trying to say. There's some history with certain people who have a history of out of control fire, you know, throwing a match on a bad day. And then there's other people who are very responsible and have the equipment and would do it right. And part of the intent of our current resolution was to allow that person, the person who the fire chief has history with, if he knows got the equipment, they know is going to do it to the best of their ability, you know, give them some leeway. But if we do what Commissioner Linville's idea is, you know, then it shuts, it either allows everyone or allows no one.
And I get what you're saying, but that's going to require the fire chief to be personally involved, because he's the one that knows who should be allowed and who shouldn't. And that's gonna take his time.
That's what we're trying to get away from. Yeah, so that Mr. Gill's point, what are we?
And can you make it a mandatory fire meeting that everybody is there and they figure this out, some agreement? I don't think I ever get agreement on all of it because there's such vast difference.
Right.
Fire department.
Yep. Yeah, I'm sure you could, well, they're volunteers, you can't force them to be to a certain meeting, but those guys are real dedicated and they make those meetings, if at all possible, and work things out.
They're real easy. I mean, they're just trying to get a resolution that makes sense to them. I mean, they're not being difficult. I understand.
So you said there was 4 departments represented at that meeting? I think
I think that's what.
there was only 4 people here, right? 4 or 5.
Robinson. And Hannibal.
The rescue squad, I counted them as well.
Okay.
I think Jesse and Matt are both.
Yeah, Jesse was here.
Jesse and Matt, Patrick, and Ron.
Okay.
Anybody else?
That's all I can remember right now.
So Jesse was in Hiawatha too, right?
He's Robinson. Yeah,
Oh,
one's
Steve Rob-
Robinson and one's, or Matt's from Robinson. Jesse is, I think he's Walnut Township. We got Walnut Township and Everest. There's 2
There's
that
2.
work together, but they still have separate chiefs. On my books.
Wait a minute,
Washington.
Okay, Washington.
but, yeah,
Urban, okay.
no. When you said Jesse, I was thinking of Jesse King,
Oh,
and he's from Everest.
Yeah.
They weren't represented.
Jesse was here, wasn't he?
Jesse Clark. Jesse King was.
Okay,
So,
Odds in to Jesse.
right, so I was confused there.
I'm sorry, I should have used their last names. I didn't even think.
But, so Jesse Clark works for the Hiawatha Fire Department, but he's from Irving. Or the Robinson, I mean, Robinson, Hiawatha, and the rescue squad is all I see that was
Okay.
there.
I thought Mr. Kimball was here.
But that's just a couple of fire departments,
Okay,
plus the rescue squad. So. I guess. My thing is to stick what we got now, well, jump in, jump into another fire, jump into another.
Did you send this out to the fire chiefs, this new resolution? Have they seen-
yes,
They've seen it?
this draft one that I
I
had,
had the opportunity to comment and
yes.
then you got.
And the 2 I got back were negative. They didn't like it, and I didn't hear back from the rest of them.
If I'm inclined to do what Mr. Clark said, just to do, if we wait. And. We run the risk of. You know, I don't want to, if they're getting a lot of phone calls, and I don't want to think we're not sensitive to that. I just am I want to be a little cautious that we're doing it right. So if we waited another week, is there, other than a week's worth of phone calls for those chiefs that don't want them, are we running any?
No,
Just,
and like you said, that CRP time is gone. And that was the big push, so I don't think they're gonna be getting the calls like they were.
okay. Well, I would vote that I'm making a motion that we just table this, and I'd like to discuss it. Are you available next week? Or you
Yes.
guys- We use you a lot, I don't mean to pull you out
Yeah.
of it. Your
I'll-
job, but-
Yeah, I'll plan on being here.
but would that
And
be
is
all right?
it Monday? Yeah, I'm not here on Wednesday.
Okay, let's go, let's go the weekend.
Okay, and I'm gone back, because that's gonna be a Monday, and I'm still out of town on that when I'm taking a long.
Um,
I don't see that there's a too big a rush.
so 3 weeks is fine then?
Okay. The second Monday in May.
That sounds good to me. I would make a motion, we table that, and bring it up for discussion. That second Monday, or second week in yes. And parliamentary lawyer, who looks like we just agree by consensus.
by consensus, so we're just gonna table it, usually what we do.
Okay.
Okay, that, okay.
Thank you. Thank you. And thanks for putting that together again,
Yes.
for being so easy to work with. Makes smoke out of my ears.
It's a challenging.
Yeah,
topic.
well, it's a big deal. Okay, what's next?
right, the other thing is the bids on that noxious weed landfill building out there. And I reviewed these three we got. One of them had some detail in it. The other two were just basically saying we're going to meet what was in the spec sheet, which doesn't give me a lot to compare with. But one thing I want to bring up in this one that had a lot of details is on the second page, it says a concrete parking pad 10 by 50 by 6 inches thick, and the spec sheet said it needs to be 8 inches. So that is not gonna work on that. And then you go down a little bit, it says there's a 4 foot by 40 foot by 8 inch with rebar on landing gear. And I have no idea what that is. We have nothing that. Don't know what it is. That's in the writing. And then on that one, I also want to bring up the last page of that one. This one is using those split units. In my understanding, it's like in the motels where it's setting in the wall and it goes for each individual room. That's what I was told a split unit is. It does heating and cooling both. And you know, that's what they chose to put in this. That's $22,500. To me, that don't seem possible.
They're that expensive?
Yeah,
Yeah, they're terribly expensive.
it's that much. Okay,
They're terribly
all
expensive.
right. So, you know, I would think a high efficiency one to do the whole building would be less than that, but. Okay, I didn't realize they were that expensive. Just wanted to. Point that out. That's the only thing I've got on those that I can.
I never liked it. Church, we just replaced 2 units, just swapped them out and did some replumbing on the lines and stuff, but it was. So it was $33,000 just for the unit swap out without no duct work or anything, just on it. That was 2 units.
Okay,
I mean, regular household units or something like that, give or take.
that was how much?
33,000.
33. Wow.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
the thing with these mini splits too is they really work great during a certain temperature range, but especially if it gets too cold, then you don't have a furnace. You don't have any heat. They're heating heat pump is what they are.
oh,
And you have to. One question I would ask on mini split is they make some that'll work in Alaska, you know, and they're like 15 below, they'll still be able to pull heat out. We have one at our house and it's rated to 12 below. And you know, every now and then we get close to that. And I mean, you just got no heat. You got no heat and it's an issue. So, you know, on your end, I would really want to investigate that before I committed because all that, because the lower the temperature rating, the higher dollar that you cost me
Okay.
money to get that.
and that's, I'm guessing if it's gonna be through the wall unit like that, it's going to be poked out towards the scale. And then you have a chance, you know, of a truck flipping it or something else, if it's gonna be there on that, or clearing snow. You know, it's just a dangerous area to have that, which wouldn't be ideal.
My thinking was looking at these bids, I thought every one of them was using a mini split to cool.
I think this higher priced one.
I know he's not, he was the units.
Like-
He was the one who was here. He was the one that mentioned that,
Yeah,
because he did say that, you know, he was using complete units.
yeah, and 80,000 BTU forced air
Okay,
for the shop.
okay.
So he's actually putting in 2 units. 2 high efficiency.
Yeah. So where I saw that was on the first bid, the bottom rate construction, a 3 cassette mini split system to heat and cool. And in the truck, they will have a 30-foot tube heater. So I'm sorry, 2 of the bids were mini splits and the other was a you know, regular traditional unit.
But it's not broke out so we can see what
Yeah.
the high efficiency. Costs.
And that bid was significant. Than the other.
I think that good chunk will be some of that heating and air. Because it's a complete system and they're versus the mini splits, but I'm very sort of different between the 2 in price, but.
Yeah, the mini split, the installation is so much simpler because you'll have one unit outside the building. And I guess on the first bid, you'll have three, what he called cassettes. I just say were room units. You know, he'll run the plumbing to each one, but there's no ducting, you know, it's just
Right.
electrical
Yeah.
and whatever the. Guess it's. Gas, I think, I don't know what actually runs to it. Free online. Free online, there you go. So. Um,
They're all on the outside of the building and then ran inside the road the units for that.
mhm. And it's all. I mean, like I said, when it works great. And I'm not sure on the potting, if, you know, when we get to 100 degrees, do you ever have any trouble if there's not staying cool?
Well, ours is regular.
Yours is regular, okay, that's open. Okay, so what's your pleasure on these building bids then? Do you have the time to look at it? Do you need to make more phone calls?
Well, I just compared that and that's what I came up with. Are you asking which one I would pick?
I'm just, where do you want to go from here? So did these bids meet your expectations? Do you have some questions that you need more time on? Or do you have a recommendation for us?
The recommendation that I have is this RF construction. And that's the one that we'd have to take the tax off of.
I would just ask them more questions on where they're using mini splits and how before we. Because the last thing you want out there on that hill where that wind blows is something that doesn't take care of the people too. I mean, you're out in the wide open there, there's no trees, there's no. And you need to find out, you're gonna have to meet that, concrete doesn't meet the specifications. That's gonna add to its price. Extra fillings of the concrete.
Yeah, and then figure out what this 40 by 40 by 8 with rebar and what that means. Just some questions you would answer. Yeah, Peter,
Yeah, 2 meter.
Yeah, it can be electric or propane.
Yeah. That might be your backup in case you're always around, you just have something.
And I know now you have to leave the doors open when it's cold to keep the bathroom from freezing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you might have to do something like that too.
Well, so at home, when that unit stops making heat, and just say it's rated at -12, but it really shuts down at -8. And before that thing starts making heat again, it needs to warm up to about 0. It doesn't want to reboot, it seems like. So there's a window of time there, and it's usually overnight, and it gets really cold in those rooms. And so you'll ask questions about that, I'm sure, and maybe maybe he's got a really excellent rating on that. But again, the lower the temperature, the better.
Okay,
I'll just say I said this before, but at this time, I think it's something that. We need to put off, that we see a little bit better for when that bill, when it comes out. Everybody's concerned about the taxes right now. We've already raised the prices and now we're putting another. Start building new building out there. I mean, I'm not saying it's. Not needed or wouldn't improve things a lot, but. But no, I think it's like a little bit time to. Or
The bare minimum, if we don't do nothing, we're gonna have to start doing remodeling in some of the office area out there because, they're having. Mice and everything else, the ceilings are falling down in some areas, like where they're working there, we can't, that's not a condition we can have to work in, so we're gonna have to do some. We're gonna have to put something into it in some areas. Water that runs across the floor when it rains in the office, in Richie's office, and actually physical water that comes across the floor.
Yeah, it's
So you're gonna have to do something. No matter what.
his point is valid, your point is valid. we had a bid before and we made some modifications. Prices went up. Um, Is this bid? Does this address every issue that you want to take care of? We still have the driveway behind the building. That's not gonna be.
Right,
But we got your parking pad. That's your.
extension of the tipping.
The
floor.
tipping floor, that was a big one.
Mhm.
And the offices. Okay, did you look at the money side of things, and how this all fits in?
It. And I keep going back to, I can't see in the future. I don't know how long that track loader is going to
Sure.
stay. You know, everything's been run down to the very bottom now. And I don't know what's gonna break down, you know, the shag truck, it needs a new starter. We're crawling under it probably every 2 weeks and banging on it with a hammer to get it started. Never starter, you know, just keep putting this off, you know,
Sure.
because we're running in the negative one. It's that close, but the prices went up, and we are getting a lot more traffic out there. Because, St. Joe, they did close that C&D and we're getting traffic from there. And then with the fire over at Nemaha, we're getting traffic from there.
This building had a percentage on what was land, and it was not just. Didn't you put a percentage on that somehow?
And that percentage was, I don't know how to go about doing that. If we use square footage, the noxious weed uses more because they have that truck bay back there with their chemical storage. And then that would probably be 75% to noxious weed if we go by square foot. But if we go by, you know, the people in it, who are they assigned to, it's gonna be 75% the other direction.
Yeah.
So, you know, it depends on how you wanna divide this up.
And it's still a team approach though between noxious weed and the landfill on this.
Yes. We'd be lost without Richie, the noxious weed working the C&D or that.
As far as like the septic system and all of that, they got bids on that. Yeah, okay, then scratch that question. You still need to ask some questions to the person who generated this bid, right?
Right.
And these bids are good for 30 days, 60 days, and you just want it, I think if I remember last week, the sooner we get it done, the sooner they can get it scheduled to get it completed before this winter.
Right.
Yeah.
The count was November 1st, if I remember right. And I do not see where he put on here the expiration date of the bid.
All right, but if we come back and you say, well, this concrete, by putting 2 inches of concrete in on that big a pad, it shouldn't be. I mean, that'll be a few yards, but it shouldn't be that.
That's all just bad. Go from 6 to 8, that's another 30% or something. 30%.
Yeah, 30, yeah, you're right. And labor should be the same. And they won't put any more rebar in it, the floors will be a little smaller.
He's already got a 10% overage figured in here, so maybe that could absorb that.
For the price or for
For the total project.
Yeah, the total project.
Oh.
He figured 16,900 as an overage.
Is that? I mean, is that standard? Have you seen that in contracts before?
the, I think machine contract.
I didn't know. I saw it in one.
Well,
I will talk to him and get an answer on it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Do we wait till the third month or second month?
That's a long time. How about the 31st? Is no, I'm gone that day too. Yeah, I'll do
That's
that.
fine. Yep. Okay.
And that's all I've got.
Okay, we did have some stuff from the landfill on these, maybe this is just standard. But the landfill report, there, any comment on that?
No,
No.
I've went over it.
Okay. That's not about the landfill. The whole meeting, right. Any comment on that?
No,
Everything's
I
good?
think we need to do it. We've got to figure out how we're going to get rid of the trash when we have, 5 loads a day and he can only do 3.
Okay.
you know, how are we gonna get rid of the other two boats? Because Ham, we're the lowest on their priority list. We have extra drivers at Central.
So we need a backup.
Right.
We need a backup. Is there any, what is our backup now? I mean, is it?
We wait on Ham.
Wait on me.
Yeah, the county did it that one day, but, they're getting busy and, you know, they don't want to be relied on to do it.
Do you have any suggestions?
Well, my personal opinion is the county owns tractors that aren't being used very often. And Richie's got a CDL license. Why wouldn't he be able to?
Would he be reimbursed by the landfill for doing that then?
That's something we'll have to work out. You know, it's been a no up to this point, so there's no reason to even, you know, negotiate with him. You know, if there's gonna be an additional fee for that. Cause he'd be doing it on county time, you know, that he's already working, so. I would have to talk to him because he's,
So my question is just trying to keep the, if the goal, and if statutorily the landfill has to stand alone. And, you know, be a standalone entity and make money. And if the county, well, I'm very supportive of the county working together as a team to do this. Somehow we need to get it separated so that we know when it comes time to set landfill rates. You know, we don't want the taxpayer subsidizing it at all. So I know it's accounting and it's a bunch of busy work, but it's important for me at least to know that if we hire, just say we hire Richie, or we utilize Richie to do that, well, that's actually not just we, isn't it?
well, he's got, I think, 4 hours. Is what he's reimbursed for.
Well,
That would be half-time though.
and I'm not looking for anyone to make any more money. What I'm, you know, what I'm trying to do is correctly allocate the costs to the landfill. So if we have to utilize him and we pull him off noxious weed, you know, yeah, we're not gonna spend any more money, but it should come out of the landfill department. So we can, you know, if we need to adjust our rates, then we have something to base it.
I guess. You're gonna have to give me direction on how exact you want this, because if we get down to it.
You
Emergency management wise, I'm probably spending 5% of my time on emergency management.
know?
And we are not putting, and that's going to make the landfill fail. On the books wise,
No, that's.
so
well
I
said.
don't want it to fail,
No, that's well
We're
said.
getting so much more trash than we've ever got before.
yeah.
I mean, we're probably double to triple what we've ever had coming in the past year.
And a big thing though is we are hauling that trash away. Before it was getting buried out there and it didn't cost us nothing. And we weren't getting behind or nothing. But that C&D is very clean now. But, and that's the way the permit says it has to be. It's not just us. The permit says that has to be clean, not trash. So we're doing it the right way and it's costing us a lot more time and money because of that.
I know that last year we've always had. George did the noxious weed, but George never spent his, he helped out there at the landfill. I mean, that's what, him and Charlie just worked together. I know he put a lot of time into the landfill, doing stuff out there for the landfill, because you can't spray during the winter. You gotta be doing something, you know, he's always, I mean, they've always helped each other out there, and I just don't think it's ever been tracked. How the hours are done, because they just. Noxious weed is a department we have to have. But I mean, I just know they've always helped each other.
Sure.
I believe I can make the landfill to where it's going to stay in the black.
Mhm.
But, you know, it depends on how picky you're getting as far as like my time, how much of it's spent.
Well, he wasn't out there right now, he'd be close.
I think, yeah, the state would have shut us down.
Okay. So we need a
First of all, we would go through the trash.
We need a
I mean,
backup.
I mean, you know, I know that the tractors that we have at our. Each of our districts, the thing is, that when we need it to haul the excavator and stuff like that.
I mean, is it in our best interest to see if we can find a tractor that will do that purpose for us? I mean, it don't have to be anything with a cab, I mean, a sleeper or anything else or fancy, but it just needs to go and make a trip. So,
There's the one guy in the county that didn't think the county ought to be in the trash only business. So one question is. Does noxious weed, is there ways to? Like in the winter, does he have to be open 8 hours a day, or can that be adjusted some way?
And I think you need to ask him that. I don't want to speak.
No, I'm not, but, and still satisfy the state regulations is what I'm trying to get at. What does the state actually require? And another thing, Mr. Smith somewhere's talked about looking into purchasing another truck and driver. Would that be an option?
Okay, the problem is, there are some days when I struggle to get Nick 3 loads a day. There's other days when we are doing 6 loads a day, and I can't tell you a day ahead of time the way the next day is gonna be.
Right, so I guess my question is. If you can't guarantee him anymore, but if he increases his business, would he be able to handle more? On an
Okay.
as needed basis? Not,
Okay, are you talking about Nick?
yeah,
Okay, I talked to Nick and said, because he has a second tractor he uses as a backup. But he said he'd have to hire another driver, and what's he do with that second driver? Because this 4 days a week, he won't use him out there.
right, I didn't know from what I read there, if he was. Thinking about just having. What his plans were, or how much he was. In wanting to do that, or.
Yeah, I can't guarantee more than the 3 a day. Because that'd be a bad business practice, but when we need to get rid of that trash, we need to get rid of it, and right now I have no way of doing that. Unless Hams comes through.
I guess the question was, would he be willing to back up? Would. Nick be willing to back up that, like,
Would Nick be willing to,
be a backup that. Just as on an as needed basis. But if he doesn't have another driver on, or
right,
that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
He didn't have a driver.
because he has to be able to guarantee his part-time worker or full-time additional driver work. And this is just a hard business because when that trash fills up, we need it hauled away. And that's why I think a county worker would be good, because they're already doing something else and we can just, hey, we need you. And they can jump away from that. Usually, there's gonna be times when they can't, I understand that. And that's that.
Would Hams give us any trailers just to?
Okay, I talked to Jeff Ham and I told him right now, we are actually 1 trailer short from what we were. Because it used to be a Ham driver would grab an empty trailer down there and bring it up and drop it. So the empty trailer was theirs that was on the road, okay? Now it's our trailer. Nick comes and gets it from us and takes it. So we lost a trailer, it's on the road all the time. And Jeff agreed with that. And with a new contract, he said he would give us another trailer. And Kevin wasn't happy with the new proposed contract, and he said it has to be given 6 months to revoke it by either side, so. His recommendation was, let's leave the old contract in place for now. I've talked,
That was Kevin's or,
yeah, Kevin's,
Okay.
okay. I've talked to Jeff down there and he said he's getting some new trailers in May and he'll try to give us one of those. So I'm working real hard on getting 1 more trailer. For them.
That'll help. It'll
That'll-
fix it.
Right, it'll help though. Yeah,
so we got 3 trailers there.
we've got 3 trailers and 1 on the road,
Yeah.
so we've got 4, but 1's on the road all the time.
It used to be, we always had 4 there because they'd always bring in an empty one.
Right.
Going 1 on the road, there'd be a
Right.
full one. We always.
So we lost 1,
We always had 4 there.
right?
That was-
And they're about 135,000 for a new trailer. These are sealed. The Doug Just looked at that trailer out there that's burned up and there's no way, and John, there's no way that can be used, so it's not an option. Pretty bad.
So you,
There's one other comment. We do have a couple people that work for the county part-time that do have CDLs that. I mean, they kind of want to limit their work, but
And I'm fine with that. I just need
I mean-
somebody to take it away.
I guess what I'm saying is, not that they drive the county truck, but they go work for Mr. Smith on his time.
Okay, talking to Nick, he said if he hires somebody, it's a huge jump in his insurance. And he is not comfortable hiring somebody he doesn't personally know to drive his trucks, because he's putting his whole livelihood into that guy's hands.
how many days, and I'm sure it changes week to week, but if you were just to guess, how many days does Nick have 3 loads on versus days where he doesn't?
Okay, I would say maybe on the average, 2 loads a month, I don't have for him.
2 days out of them,
Two loads
2 loads.
per month. I believe that's about what I write for the letters, to justify whether there's not a receipt for that.
Okay.
So we're really good about getting the 3 loads. And we do things like them tires, I'm the one going down there and cutting the sidewalls out of them tires now. So we're not paying tire covers. So we're saving those up when we have short loads and throwing those tires in. We get them great big tarps off of the grain piles. And that takes up half a trailer, just one, and it don't weigh nothing. So it's like we're sending in the empty trailers, but we're throwing that in a trailer, to make one up for them to haul, so there's not a misload. But I would say we would use 3 loads a week that we would need hauled away above Nick.
Above and beyond.
But that's it, that don't justify a full-time person. That's one
Three
day.
of them are not gonna be on the same day, they're gonna be.
No, right. But 2 could be on the same day.
I think it goes back to where. As much as. Richie's having to do out there at the landfill, I'm gonna be back to where we, the person that we hire, to get, take the C and D, hopefully be like a driver. And that would fill up this time as a full-time person out there for you. And relieve some of your time you have out there too. We did go down 1 employee with the landfill.
But we're needing that to keep it in the black. I understand.
I'm just saying, we're,
This is a blend. So your solution. We'd have to find a truck. Is there any way? Shag truck, you say, is in pretty bad shape.
No, there's no way it
Well,
ever make it on the road.
Understood, it's not supposed to. What I was thinking was, is there any way to get it? Is there a way to have? Do you need a shag truck on the lot at all times?
Yes.
Okay. Okay,
You stop, and think about it, it pulls from 3 to 6 trailers a day. So you figure out how many round trips that is, and the time to hook it and unhook
Sure.
it, and, it's used all the
so
time.
if the commissioners decided, hey, maybe we do need another truck out there, spare truck. You just have to buy another truck. There's no way to utilize this new truck to do.
Anything else.
Yeah, it's just.
I don't know what it could
the
be.
newer truck, this is the truck that we use on the road, they're so big back in. The shag trucks are make it nice for them, so we can see. They're so small, they're easy to back in and hook up compared to a regular. Tractor in the building.
Mhm.
The beauty of contracting this out is you're contracting the labor and the machinery, and there's something you don't have to maintain, and you're working. But the trick is we can't find any, our contract says 3 loads a day, and that's not necessarily enough. Some days it's too many, most days it's, it just works fine. Was there any of these bidders? Did you investigate any of these people that bid but didn't get the contract? Would they be interested in doing it?
I called one of them that I thought was interested, and he goes, no, you're not gonna guarantee me loads, I'm not interested.
And that's understandable.
Yeah.
I just didn't. So, so the best solution then is to do it in-house.
I believe so. And going back, didn't want to just ignore your comment on, the county shouldn't be doing it themselves, they should be contracting. That means that we should be hiring dump truck drivers from the private sector to haul,
Right,
we need to do what's most cost efficient for the taxpayers. And if it's hiring a county employee, because you're in control of, you can tell that person to do this and that. So that's my comment to that, that we do need to have our own employees at times.
So if we were to get another trailer, that'll help, but it doesn't eliminate the problem. If a person if you got 2 extra trailers, would that help? You just a little reserve storage is all I'm thinking. You
Yeah,
fill
it-
one, park it to the side and get it.
Yeah,
when you come.
it would help.
But that's $135,000. It's not
Right.
cheap.
but then you get in trouble with some kind of parking, and that's when you get your cars. Potentially,
The state says that we can only leave them, I think, sitting there 2 days, something like that, which we don't have that problem. The trailers are moving all the time. Yeah,
It's fine. I'm just
it's-
trying to.
for the.
if we have those trailers show up and we fill them, but how do we don't get empty that often to where we're gonna catch up. With 3 loads a day, we just don't catch up. And like Rich said, we're getting busier all the time. I don't know how long this from St. Joe's gonna keep coming over. This is really dirty and stuff coming from St. Joe. So we're charging more money for what's going down in C&D, but it's taking more of our time because Richie and I are going down there with the track loader and the old backhoe and filling the bucket up with trash and hauling it back up to the floor. Because there's so much trash in it. But we can't tell that till these semis are dumped and then it's there. You can't load it back up into them. All you can do is charge them more and then we clean it up.
But you are able to charge them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're charging them trash. What we do is they pull in there and they go down and we tell them if it's dirty, you're getting charged for trash. And when they get down there, they dump it and we go through it. And if it's trashy, there's everything, bed mattresses, couches.
And you go through there physically yourself and dig that stuff
Yep.
out, throw it in the bucket and haul them out.
Yeah. Richie's good. He clamps it with that clamshell and that.
And you're able
Big
to
stuff
charge
out.
enough to recoup your.
Well, we do what we can.
Which,
Yeah.
do we need to give you more authority there?
We're trying to get them to clean stuff up because we don't want to be doing that.
Do you have the power to reject it?
Yes, but we don't know it's dirty till it's dumped. And then it's already on the ground, so.
Are you getting it? So,
Try to do the bury stuff in there, and hope you don't catch it. A lot of them,
are you getting the same companies bringing with dirty roads time and time again?
The ones I've talked to from St. Joe has started cleaning up.
Okay.
So they're getting the message and they don't like an extra charge and we've told them they're gonna take it to Topeka. Get it cleaned up.
So, okay,
So we're threatening them.
you're doing
And,
it.
yeah. And our local haulers, they've got a lot better too.
What's coming over from St. Joe?
Their C&D pit closed. And I brought that up a couple months ago. That was a possibility. And just Friday was the first day that it was closed. And I think we had 5 semi loads come in that day and Saturday, there was 2 or 3.
So the C and D is what you like to see, then, that's.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
That's-
money. That's
Yeah.
what, okay.
But we've got to keep it clean. I don't
you're
want to
working
get in
on
trouble from the
But
state.
You said it closed on Friday, so you really haven't had much time. to
Right.
connect.
And, they're gonna go other directions too, from St. Joe's.
So tell me again how much. Your trash is how much more than seed? I guess the question is. As the trash, when you charge trash price over C&D price, does that cover enough to cover the cost of cleaning that up?
Hour wise, you mean like labor and
Right.
stuff? Yeah, I'd say we come out okay.
Okay,
We're not making money on it, but
John, not losing
Yeah.
much.
But you're charging them $79 a ton, $78 a ton
I don't know what. the
for
exact
trash,
number
and C and D is 40.
48 or something.
Something like
Is that-
that. So
yeah.
there's.
$25 times 20,
You know,
like,
some of those loads are, and I understand it, they're tearing down houses and they don't wanna go in and physically clean them out, but. Like there's one in Horton. I'm talking with that contractor, and I went and looked in the house before he tore it down. You know, to see what it is, and they go, nope, there's no way, there's hot tub and beds and couches, and go, I will not take it. You know, so that was nice of him to have me look. You know, and they can't burn it either in that condition.
But you can take it as track.
We can take, well, the problem with that is we take something that's more than 5 foot long. And then it twists in that trailer and it plugs it up. And
That's
with
what-
our new contract, that's gonna be $100 for each dig out. Because when Nick goes down there and he dumps on that floor, if it's plugged up, he has to move to another area. And then they physically reach up in there and dig it out. And he may only get 2 loads a day because of that. So that's costing me a lot, because he lost a load. So putting it in the trash on the floor, that's the last thing we want to do. That costs us.
Well, we want to be, yes, helpful to you and a resource to you. And I appreciate you letting us bounce ideas off of you. Your recommendation though is we need to potentially find another truck and then utilize Richie.
And I got to talk to him to see if he's willing to do it.
Well, so again, we're gonna have to have you come back and see what you come up with. I mean, the semis, they're not terribly expensive if you're not looking for a, standard hood P. There can be bought for
And-
free.
And I really rely on John Sellen. You know, he's a very knowledgeable person. And his recommendation was not to get into the trucking business.
Mm.
So, I would definitely want to include him in this before we get into it, because he has reasons for saying that. A lot of costs. I don't know anything about trucking. So we need to rely on someone like him.
Sure. Well, the county should have all the over the road stuff, I would think, because we have we have a truck to haul our equipment around, and most of that stuff I think would carry over, but it'd be another unit you'd have to tag and whatever stuff.
And keep the inspections up on it.
That's right, that's right. So. Okay. Anything else? $1 million pounds?
yeah, I was just actually more for Kevin and you, but in that contract talked about bankruptcy. What? If the company goes bankrupt, what problem is it to the county?
That's a legal question.
So
I think it's probably just standard contractual language.
probably,
A lot of that in there is really won't apply to us.
but so anyway, got to ask Kevin.
One question for you, and I'm gonna switch gears, if it's all right, and we'll be done with landfill. I mean, we've essentially.
You wanna go ahead and get this tonnage
Oh,
approved and.
yeah, we can do this.
On that yet.
Was there anything we needed to discuss on this? Just standard stuff, and had some things about tires, and that's where you're cutting the side.
Right, it's costing us, I believe, $5 to have them come take the tires away from us for the car tires. So, and I can just take a utility knife and, your hand gets really tired after, 5 or 6 tires, but that's saving the county money. When I've got a half hour, I'll go down and do that to save it. So the tires, that's one thing we're doing to really try to save them.
So you'd mentioned when we took me on a landfill tour a couple months ago about tipping those trailers over and making a workstation, getting the tire machine to do
Yeah.
this stuff. Are you still looking at that?
I still want to do it, I just don't have time to mess with it.
No time to
Yeah,
because we
yeah,
take
but-
too much of your time at this meeting. And you're very generous with your time. I'm serious about that. We look across the table at you all the time. And we don't mean to be so demanding, right? But
So-
we do
so it-
appreciate-
So it's saving them money to send them to the dumping service and the tires.
Right, yeah, it's saving us a lot.
I don't know how much it tires weigh, but
Yeah, they're,
some of them not very heavy.
So
Yeah.
Don himself is cutting the sidewalls out of those tires, and then he can throw them in with regular trash. And yeah, so we're collecting them for, what do you charge? $8 or something?
Something like that.
To collect the
Yeah.
tire and then he can dispose of it. And it's,
Once
it's
you
not a
fix
bad
the
gig.
sidewall out, you could send the sidewall off, we can bury the other part.
No, we cannot bury
Can't bury
that.
any of it.
No,
But
we're
they'll
not
take it,
licensed to it.
but they won't take them without a sidewall out because
Right.
they take up too much airspace in the trailer.
No, what happens is the tires will float in the landfill. It gets air in it, trapped in it,
Oh,
and then they'll float up through it after they're buried. So that's why a sidewalk.
Okay, so this is pretty standard. I was gonna ask you a question, and this is back to the fire.
Okay.
All right, and this is really don't need any action, but at our meeting, and we talked about this sort of as a commission, at our meeting, there was a person there that said, maybe we qualify for more grants for our fire department funding if somehow we were able to combine. We don't have enough calls, like incident calls for a lot of our individual departments to qualify for some of this money. But if we combined them somehow, then maybe that would open up a new source of funding for fire equipment through grants. I mean, that was touched on. I mean, what does that, from your point of view, what does that actually mean? What happens? Is this something we can do?
And it's real gray area there, can you combine all of them without actually combining all of them? We talked about this when I started in Brown County,
Mhm.
about making it a county-wide fire department. And that was a big no. They don't want to do that, and that's fine. It was talked about.
Okay.
All right, so, if they're combined like that, you can put all those calls together.
Mhm.
I know I have looked at some grants where different emergency management counties have went together.
Mhm.
Because Brown County being in the poverty level, it helps out Nemaha County, to where we can put in together and we cover both sides of it. They have enough more wildfires and we have the poverty, so you put that together and we can make it. That grant didn't go anywhere, but doing that here. I don't know how that would work, and it probably depend on each individual grant, whether it would or not. I don't know who has the expertise to look at the grant and go, yeah, it'll combine, or no, it won't.
Okay.
It's beyond me.
Oh, what you thought? I mean, you guys have considered it, but there's a general reluctance to combine everything.
Yes,
They
yeah,
just, no way,
there's
no,
no way
even,
that's
don't
gonna
even
happen.
attempt it. Okay, that's what I knew. Okay, and as far as the hauling agreement, you've seen this, it meets your approval,
Yes.
everything you wanted, okay. All right, and you're gonna come back to us, in 3 weeks, give or take?
Yeah,
But you'll have
the
an email or
second
two.
Monday, and there's no other meeting before then, right, when I'm here. It's the 31st.
We'll have an email or two there from you about the
Okay,
thing.
yeah, I
will
will
get
do everything I can by
All
email.
right, thank you for an hour of and plus of your time.
You're welcome. All right, thanks.
You bet. Okay. I need to be. So Nikki, this solid waste, I mean, it's empty up here, but you'll put that in, so this is really good. Oh, okay, when Rich get vaccine, yeah, you get back. This is something we can do. Okay, well. I guess we have, everyone's seen this landfill report and the tonnage report, so is there a motion to approve?
I'm gonna approve it.
Is there a second?
second.
It's been moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. The next is this solid waste hauling agreement we have in front of us. Everyone had a chance to review that. Is there a motion to approve it?
So moved.
There's a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carried, signing that. And according to our agenda, that's what I have. Is there anything else that needs to come before us today? Being none, I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, meeting adjourned. We will have a work session here pretty short. We'll discuss,